Well, hello, everybody out there in internet land. My name is Brian Trippett. I am known in the social media as the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome to a session of the Electronic Front Porch that is historic and fun and lively, and it's going to be any number of different things, and we are so glad that you are here with us tonight. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter, so if you haven't done it yet, send out a message to all your friends. Tell them, get in here. This is going to be a very interesting discussion about a topic that under normal circumstances gets a lot of play right now, but is eerily quiet. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And when I say we, I mean the royal we. And the guests that I'm about to bring on, I think you'll begin to understand why they have been invited to this little electronic soiree. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative, sometimes known as the Beau and the Chapeau, and occasionally I'm referred to as the common man with common sense. And tonight is Pride Month preview. And oh, yes, I know what you're thinking. Front Porch, how can you possibly do this topic? Why not? We're about to get inundated with it anyway. We're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter. We're glad you're here tonight. Settle in, folks, because this is going to be a load of fun. And let me start bringing in my guests who, why they're willing to still associate with me after all this time, I have no idea, but they're tolerating me. So bless their hearts. We're glad they're here. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody who I'm about to bring on has been on the Electronic Front Porch at one time or another, and they are some of the brightest, most insightful, and fun content creators and commentators you're ever going to run into. Let us start first with a lady that needs almost no introduction anywhere in the civilized internet world. Please welcome back to the Electronic Front Porch, Gothics. Lady
Hello.
G, how you doing?
It is I, Lady G. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. I was gonna laugh and say, well, he's referring to a she, bringing her back on, so he's assuming my gender. But yes,
Well,
it's
yeah,
me.
I'm that kind of an uncivilized barbarian that way.
How dare you?
I know. Aren't I awful? Aren't I just terrible?
Mm-hmm.
Shame on me.
Mm.
And ladies and gentlemen, lest you think that the Lady G will be chatting with me just by herself, oh no, she's got friends and backup. He is known as the High Harlot, formerly of the state of New York. He is now terrorizing Florida and having a load of fun doing it. Please welcome back Mr. Mike Harlow. Mikey
Thank
boy,
you,
how you doing?
I am great. First of all, you named me that. I'm known as the High Harley. You named me this.
Yes,
I'm great. How are you guys?
brother. I have missed you. I still got to catch up with you, and I promise I'm not ignoring you. But dude, I owe you a phone call.
I owe
'Cause
you a phone call, I thought.
Well, no, you've got 1,000,001 things going on, and we both got stories to tell. And I promise, sooner or later, it might happen this weekend, but it's going to happen soon. And finally, let me bring in two of the finest commentators and intellectual provocateurs in the whole of social media. They are the proprietors of the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast. Please welcome back Brentley and Daniel. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Very well.
How's it
thank
going?
you. So much flattery with that introduction, please.
Listen, I've told all of you
You tried.
at one time or another, my channel is simple. It's very not fancy, but the best thing that I can possibly do for you is give you one stem winder of an intro. And with that, you can roll with it, clip it, and do whatever you need to do with it for the benefit of your social media efforts.
And
You're making me
what is
blush.
a toilet paper stem winder.
Stem winder. Yes, stem
That's
winder.
a thing?
That is a word. Yes, it is a word. Usually it refers to winding something up real good and just letting it go. At least I think that's what it
I
means.
like how
All of us.
I like how you described yourself as the common man with common sense. I think that is kind of like your whole brand, and what I like about you and what you do is that the whole front porch thing is like, I'm just a dude. I'm at home. We're talking about what's going on in the country and politics, and the common man with common sense, I thought was a good description. But yes, that's why we associate with you still, Brian.
Oh, I thought it was the fact I paid you.
It's the fedora.
You guys got paid?
Oh, wait.
We did not get paid. I didn't get the check yet, but
That is a joke.
Supposed to hear that, guys.
I'll give you my new address so you can make sure I get my new check.
No, you're being paid in coffee. Okay, I understand. No, we've got this thing worked out. Okay, so first of all, I am so glad to have all y'all back. In some cases, it's been a while since we've talked. And I wanted to get you guys together for any number of different reasons, but there's something that I kind of need your guidance, wisdom, observations on, because most people, and you guys know, most people who follow my social media channel, I usually cover, it's mostly politics, and sometimes I touch on the cultural stuff. You guys touch a lot more on the cultural and social stuff, and occasionally it weaves into politics. Well, this is one of those moments when the two sort of intersect, but I kind of need your guys' opinion about something I'm seeing, and then we can bounce this wherever we want to go with it. Pride Month is about to come up, or as my dear friend Michael calls it, the holy month of obligation. And
yay,
it's the best of the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, I yeah.
Gets a whole month.
A whole month of celebrating everything Pride. But this year, and again, anybody who wants to bounce into this one first, go right ahead. I'm not going to necessarily put you guys in any order here. But is it just me, or this year, is it just, I won't say eerily quiet, but you're not hearing a lot about LGBTQ plus stuff?
Quiet? You would describe these people as quiet?
Well, no, wait a minute. I didn't necessarily say they were quiet. I just said the whole rolling into Pride Month seems a lot more subdued than it usually is.
It's
Set
what?
me straight,
May
man. If I'm
23rd.
wrong, I mean, tell me here.
Somebody clip this and remind Brian once we are just a few days into June, and let me know if these bitches are quiet.
Just
it's gonna be gay.
Just wait till June 1st. It's gonna be like normal, and then as soon as June 1st happens, it's gonna be rainbows everywhere. Every single brand is gonna change their logo, and there's just gonna be 4 weeks of pandering, and then as soon as it's over, then they roll it all back in, they pack it in until next year. And
okay,
so it's all to sell shit. To be honest, that's what this really comes down to.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I see that reference to money.
To sell shit.
Yeah, to sell shit.
I mean, poison.
Well, I mean, here's sort of what I'm thinking. This is at least my working idea. I mean, last spring, you had the backlash off of the whole Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light thing. You had Target just absolutely getting crucified on social media everywhere you turned. You had companies that, up until that point, who had been very diving into the deep end of the pool on Pride Month, and again perhaps for commercial purposes, all of a sudden they're starting to backtrack, and it's like, whoa, wait, we're expecting all this now this year. I mean, who was it? Hang on a minute, because Brentley and I were talking about this backstage.
Target is having a new ad campaign, and they're limiting their Pride collections in a lot of their stores. So they're gonna
So I remember reading about this. What it seems like Target is doing is, in any places where they got more backlash, they're going to just take that display and throw it to the back of the store is what's probably going to happen. And then in places where it's more liberal and blue and Democrat and all this stuff, they'll have that right at the front of the store. So it still comes down to selling shit. It's like, how do we best appeal to that specific demographic to make sure they come into the store and buy stuff? So if in one place they have to tone it down a bit to keep making money, they'll do that. And if in another place they have to amp it up,
crank it up,
they'll do that. And that's what I feel like is kind of going on here.
It's basically just red state stores, I think, that they're putting it, like the people who are most sick of this shit.
Well, let me throw something out there, and I'll throw this one to Gothics first of all. Where do you think? Because I mean, this controversy, every June it rolls around, and when I say controversy, it's like, okay, most people would, I think, argue, okay, fine, you're straight, you're gay, you want to celebrate being gay, fine. Don't shove it down my throat, and don't put it right in my face when I go everywhere that I need to go to do whatever it is I need to do. And after last year, it seems like, I guess here's my question. Are we reaching the point, societally, at least here in the United States, where the pendulum has swung as high as it's going to go in one direction, and now it's either halted or it's starting to slowly go back the other way. And Gothics, I'll throw that to you first.
I don't think the pendulum has shifted.
Okay.
As far as like it being the highest, maybe not. I think if Democrats stay in office, it will, over the course of the next few years, maybe the pendulum will reach its top peak, but it's not where it is right now. I think what you're describing of not seeing as many people hype up Pride Month, because I think I do agree with you where it's like a couple of years ago, you would see people promoting Pride Month way before Pride Month. It's like the pre-show. I don't really see that now, but I think that's more so like incrementalism on the Democrat side, where it's like they know that election season is right here, and so they don't want to lose elections. They know a lot of people have been taking the red pill and are on the Trump train. So in the same way, you got conservatives who are sort of like having like this middle ground approach with the abortion issue. They know it's one of those losing topics. So I think the Democrats know if we keep ramming this shit in people's faces, we're going to lose a lot of people. So I don't think it's necessarily they forgot about it. They're just sort of like
soft soaping it.
They're very soft about it.
Okay. Gents, anybody want to step into that one?
I think it's kind of yes and no, because there thankfully has been such a backlash to it. However, let's not forget that they have every powerful institution in the country on their side: the federal government, the media, the medical establishment. So it's going to be an uphill battle to reverse anything. But I'm thankful that this has sort of been one of the very few things where people on the right will finally say, okay, enough's enough.
I don't know. I think we are sort of like moving a bit in the other direction. Like Harrison Buckner's speech, for one thing, is like really just, it seemed to hit a note. You know, it really resonated with a lot of people. And that was the conversation for like, I mean, it's still happening on X, you know, and it's been the conversation for like the last like week or so. And a lot of these like fembot cheerleader types, you know, they're like running to the New York Post or like anybody that will put a microphone in front of their mouths to be like, he is so wrong. How could he say that? It's just the worst. He's so misogynistic and racist and all these things. And it's just like, lady, like, did you actually read the text of what the man said? Because, you know, it was a very like basic, like very toned down. The worst thing that he did, honestly, and he did it really early in the speech, and I think this is why they went after him. He indicted the response to COVID. You know, he highlighted how that interrupted, you know, the graduating seniors, you know, scholastic experience. And, you know, he condemned religious, media, political leaders who all sort of like lined up behind the COVID response. And, you know, he basically said, you know, that was wrong. And like, he laid that out there very real early before he said anything about women and, you know, traditional marriage. And, you know, and the other thing that I thought was interesting about the way that they went after him was that they totally used this whole thing about, you know, what he said about women, but he basically told the same thing to the men. He was like, look, like God and family comes before your career, your worldly success. Like worldly success is great and all, but like God, family comes first, and you only get, you know, worldly success if you like have a wonderful and supportive wife like mine, is basically kind of like something what he said. And they went after him. They were so mad about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. It's like, okay, and someone made this point far better than I ever could. A man who is Catholic goes to a Catholic college, speaks in front of a Catholic graduating class, speaks Catholic doctrine, and all of a sudden it's like, I can't believe he's doing this. Okay, when you hire a plumber, what do you expect him to do? Be a policeman? No, he's a plumber. Of course he's going to do plumbing things.
Also, he'd already been known for like, you know, going in front of audiences and having hot takes about vaccines and like other things. This is like not out of the realm of, it was just the media decided to amplify his words. And, you know, it's the Trump effect. Like they do this all the time. Like they think that they're actually countering a signal, but they're blowing it up. Like Gothix knows this well. She calls it the cycle of insanity, but like your haters are like actually your biggest supporters because they run around promoting you, sharing clips of you, being like, oh, look how terrible this person is. They're just the worst. And then, you know, a reasonable person will see your content and be like, hey, actually, they're wrong about that. And, you know, the person seems to be having an interesting conversation. I would like to know more. And so they go and start following your shit. And it's like, thank you for
it's exactly what happened to Jordan Peterson in 2016. That is exactly what happened to him. Is he, you know, he spoke out against the pronouns and Bill C-16 and all that stuff going on over there, made a series of videos that created the uproar. His attackers started attacking him. That brought more attention on him. People started to look at him. They paid attention to his political stuff, but then they went and found his lectures and started listening to more of the things he was saying and teaching, and they stayed for the content and the actual messaging. And they were like, actually, this guy's not as crazy as you guys said he was. He's actually pretty rational and is giving good advice. And then now look, you know, how famous he is because of all of that. Another point I think what we're talking about kind of illustrates, and I think I'm seeing it. I don't know if there's studies being done on this, but there's got to be some kind of rift going on too amongst the youth with this stuff. You know, I think there is a bit of a rise in conservatism in some youth. And we saw like some of the backlash on college campuses too. There are some students who are standing up, you know, to the lefty pro-Palestine protesters, defending the flag, those kinds of things. So there is a rift going on. And I think part of what we're seeing is the LGBTQ stuff, now that it is mainstream and cool and hip, it has become so mainstream that now like the adults and the teachers and everyone is promoting it, and you see rainbows everywhere. And now, like, you know, imagine being a kid and you're coming up and you realize you're not straight, but then you walk into your school and it's being blasted everywhere.
Oh,
special!
Die! I would die.
I would be mortified.
Die.
It would make me actually not want to be associated with any of that. So I think we're kind of seeing a kind of backlash a bit to that, where some of the youth are starting to look at that and be like, well, actually, that's fucking corny. Like Mrs. So-and-so is over here with her progress flag pin and shit. And I don't want anything. That's corny as shit. Like me and my friends are going to go over here and do this, you know?
Refresh
that.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, when I was in high school, there was nowhere near this level of it. But
It didn't exist.
The few little things they had, like they had the Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah,
and I'd be like, fuck that. I'm like, I'll be smoking in the parking lot. Or they had the Day of Did you ever have the Day of Silence?
No.
The what?
Oh my God. They used to do this. I guarantee you they still do it. It's a day because gay people, for some reason, I don't get it, but it's like because everyone wears tape over their mouths or doesn't speak for the entire day because gay people who can't speak and they're closeted, and somehow silence doesn't create more. So anyway, every year I was getting in trouble with that fucking Day of Silence.
Oh,
I would always be the one laughing and talking.
Is that like the no hate campaign where they put duct tape over their lips?
Don't even. That was the biggest money laundering operation.
Close in honor of Pride Spirit Day, but some
here's let me throw this up here real fast. This is from last year when you guys were talking about, you know, kids in schools protesting a lot of the stuff that's being put in their face. This is from, let me see if I can put this up here real quick. I don't know if you guys remember this story or not from last year. This was like, I think up in Vermont. And oh yeah, Brent, you're laughing. You know exactly the story I'm talking about here. Kids were like going through the school, tearing down rainbow stuff. They're like literally walking out of
Burlington
class.
is such a fun little town. It's like the Portland of the East Coast. So it's nice to see there's a little reaction.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, boomered. Okay, there we go. Look, you call yourself Granny. I just call myself Boomer Bob. It's
I don't call myself Granny. Other people call me Granny.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
You're not a boomer though. You're a Gen Xer.
Yeah, but I'm a Gen Xer with boomer tendencies. So, I mean, you know, you just kind of roll with it. It's like
I'm Generation Y, but I always get tagged as an elder millennial.
So I mean, you had kids walking out of schools. You had parents showing up. Oh gosh, there was another one I just happened to be flipping through while you guys were talking. I was just flipping through Twitter and I found this one as well. Yeah, this is like from back in June of last year. North Hollywood, maybe in Florida, could be. But yeah, I mean, they're like, no, you're not gonna ram the stuff down our throats, and you're not gonna like do this in front of our kids, and we're not gonna tolerate this stuff. Go ahead.
I feel like what we're seeing with this stuff in society is kind of like it's like a form of like an overcorrection. And it's crazy because that overcorrection has actually created an environment that, like I said earlier, younger me would have found very uncomfortable coming up today. Because when I was coming of age and I started to, realize I had homosexual tendencies and all of that stuff, and that I was gay, quote unquote. One of the things I wasn't afraid. The thing I was afraid of the most was that how people were going to see me differently. Like, oh, this is gay Dan now. And that it was going to define everything about me and everything else that I did going forward. And it's ironic because now we have created an environment in this country where that is what is encouraged. You are being encouraged to define yourself based on this. And we're being singled out. Where our hand has to be held, we have to be coddled. You're special, you're this and that. It is literally the exact opposite of what I would have wanted when I was younger, which was to just be treated like a normal person. So I do find it ironic that this overcorrection, I think, is actually doing more harm than good. That's my opinion, at least, because I feel like it's just going to further confuse more people going forward. They're going to feel like they have to define themselves based on this stuff to fit in. And it is why I think we're seeing a rift now where there are some young people who are rebelling against it, because now it is the establishment, and it's almost countercultural now, or it is countercultural to promote family values or traditional families, to promote, a man and a woman being the ideal situation to raise a kid. Like, oh my God forbid. Like, that is countercultural. To go out there and get married and have kids like what Gothics did, that is now punk, which is weird because I never thought that we would be in a place in society where that was considered like punk or rebellious. It's like, well, no, screw you. I'm going to get land and have kids and get married and grow food. It's like,
or even for gay people, like, what was the point of pushing for gay marriage if they're just going to be the drunk slut at the bar until they're 40, 50, 60 years old? Like these bitches did not push for gay marriage because any of them wanted to get married. They did it out of spite.
I think part of it was that, perhaps. Yeah.
Could very
well. There is this idea that equality, that gay relationships are basically equivalent to heterosexual ones, which is just it's a lie. Like, gay relationships are gay relationships. They're unique and special thing, but they are not equivalent.
They're not
the same. They're not the equivalent. They can't make babies. And let's be real. Like, if we want to have a future, we need straight people to make babies. Like, that's how we get future humans. Like, it's literally like how time and space and population works. So
very true. And some people, when they get together, they take that admonition from the Lord about be fruitful and multiply quite seriously. I mean, some people have 4 kids, some people have 5 or 6 kids, and it's like, okay, we're all about make those families, make those babies, go on, do it. Glad for you. Let me shift gears ever so slightly and talk about something else. And I want to get your take on things that are happening in the U.S. based on things I'm seeing abroad. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm telling this incorrectly, but England recently banned puberty blockers and other things on children below a certain age. Am I misremembering that, or did I hear that correctly?
No, that's accurate.
Okay. All right. So I did hear that correctly.
Largely. I mean, there's going to be exceptions. Like, there will be like the super specials that are able to get their kids into the pilot research studies. So it will still happen in some circumstances, but like the wide scale use of it has largely been, stopped. And that's the trend that's happening across Europe. Here, it's a little bit different because all the medical associations are occupied by, people that are either making a lot of money, or they're ideologically aligned, or they're like a in disguise. And so this is one of the things about those types of people is that some of them are hyper intelligent, and they get themselves into jobs, in medical fields or legal ones or political ones. because they like that it gives them authority and control over something. And I've heard from people who have been victimized before. There's often groups of them, and it's creepy. It's very creepy. And so like it's not beyond the realm of possibility that there are groups of dudes that control enough of the spots in these medical organizations that are just pushing it forward because they either make money off of it, or they frankly get off on the idea of mutilating children and taking away their future happiness.
Well, who's that TikTok doctor again? The Eat the Teats one.
Oh God,
yeah.
What? I forget her name.
She's a good example of that.
It's something weird because she's not American, I don't believe. I think she's Norwegian.
But
or
what
Swedish.
I mean is just like her joy and like excitement over what she's doing. I find just incredibly
really disturbing.
Super disturbing. Like she's excited to remove these young women's breasts. Yeah. And when you see the way she talks about it, make TikTok jokes, videos about it and stuff, like it's this lighthearted, fluffy thing. And it's like, no, this is crazy. Like you're removing the healthy sex organs of people to affirm a delusion. That is what's happening. And it's crazy that we're even in a time right now in society, at least Western society, where saying that is this like taboo thing where you can, have your job lost, they're going to contact your job. And
frankly, I'm just at the point now where I call it satanic, because you're just, you're literally like stealing future happiness and inflicting lifelong suffering on a defenseless child who cannot give informed consent for that procedure, no matter how you rationalize and mentally gymnast and bend that pretzel around. The parents give kids. No, they can't do that. I'm sorry. You can't give that kind of consent.
We have laws already on the books to protect children from being abused by their parents. It's like there are laws against that. The parents
also it meets
do whatever they want with the child. That's not how
it meets the definition of medical battery. Frankly, like you're engaging in a medical practice. A medical malpractice, an intervention that violates the two most basic rules of medicine, which is do no harm, which means your intervention has to address the problem, and it has to have a high probability of being a curative, and it has to do such with minimal damage, minimal side effects. And then informed consent, which is like the person that is consenting to the experience has to really
understand,
but has to have a completely informed, and rash. Like you can't just like give them a thing and have it signed off in 2 seconds. And it's ridiculous. These procedures used to require years living as the opposite sex, and they would only perform them on adults over the age of 35. And that was how it was in the long ago, in the before time, when it was very rare. And nobody complained about it, and then all of a sudden now they want to do it to children.
Well, now they're complaining about it because the argument they're making is that by intervening earlier, it's better for them later for their transition. I think one of the arguments that I'm hearing for doing it to young boys, like with the hormone blockers, for example, the puberty blockers, is apparently. Actually, no, it's actually causing problems from what I understand, right? Because now they're ending up with a micro penis later. And then when they want to do the bottom surgery, it turns out they don't even have enough going on down there.
Yeah, no, a kid died, having that procedure.
Well, that's the thing. Even if, most of them have no idea what they are, but even if that child does end up later in life to be somebody who feels that they're legitimately a transsexual, it still harms them.
Yeah, it does.
And this is the root and stem issue of the transgender question. It's like, how can we, we could say it's okay for adult, like that's one line that a lot of people like to have, that it's okay for adults, but no for children. And I think that's a reasonable compromise given, how we feel about freedom and personal sovereignty. In objective reality, I don't think that there's nobody born in the wrong body. And I think everybody who has gender dysphoria or symptoms like that probably has undiagnosed sexual trauma, likely from childhood.
What I will say is I will only maybe consider that a reasonable compromise if these procedures were being promoted as purely cosmetic, and that is not what they are being promoted as. They are being passed off as medically necessary, and that is one of the crux of the matter with this too. If they were just saying like this is cosmetic, that it's not medically necessary, that's a whole different ball game. clearly we can talk about that too. We can talk about Brazilian butt lifts and Botox and all those things that people do to alter their bodies. Those are cosmetic things.
Ozempic.
And
so trendy right now. Everybody knows what Ozempic is, right? That's
I have no idea.
It's in like know what it is. Ozempic?
No.
What?
It's a
weight loss medication.
It is a diabetic drug created just to handle the question of diabetes. However, one of its side effects is that it really helps you lose weight. And let me tell you, people are going to go see, they're seeing the doctor and they're saying, hey, doc, I need to lose about 30 pounds. Can you hit me up with some Ozempic? And they're not taking the time to read the side effects, which are you will have this problem, this problem, this problem, and this problem with usage for perhaps not what you is designed for. And everybody's like, oh no, but I need to lose 30 pounds. And it's like it's the cotton picking rage. It's ridiculous.
And look at their faces. It makes their faces. I mean, these people, they look like the fucking crypt keeper. I'm sorry. Can I
Mike, you know my rules, dude. You can say pretty much whatever you want. I don't care.
YouTube's a little better with cursing now, from what I understand. So I think.
Well, they look like the fucking crypt keeper. And I knew someone who went on it, by the way, like just between us.
Okay.
It all
between
back.
us and the whole internet.
And the millions of people on the internet who are going to watch this at some point or another. Yeah, all just
like up here is thin, and then it widens quite considerably.
Oh my god, that person's watching this right now.
Sorry,
like Harlow, you SOB, you dirty no good.
Sorry, it's the truth.
I wasn't familiar with this medication. I hadn't heard of it.
Well, look at Ozempic face; it's becoming a thing. Their faces look. Oh, it's horrible.
Don Lemon was accused of it during the Elon interview because he had this very gaunt, sort of like thin-skinned appearance. And
he wasn't even fat, though, was he?
I think in his case, no,
I think that's just a case of people get the face they deserve.
No, with Don Lemon, it's just the cocaine. But let me throw you guys a question, because there was a piece of news that came out of South Carolina, and I'll throw it up here on the screen. South Carolina, much like Great Britain, has signed a bill that bans puberty blockers, hormone, sex change surgeries for minors. And I guess here's the question I want to put to the panel. Sometimes trends start in Europe and they wind up making their way over here. Well, now you've got Great Britain doing what South Carolina has now done. So I guess the question that I've got is much like in the same way with corporations and Pride Month. Where do you guys think we are societally here in the U.S. on this question of puberty blockers, and related to children and all these issues? I mean, as I said, you guys talk about these things way more than I do. And it's not that I don't care about the issues. It's just I got a certain amount of bandwidth to handle certain things. But from a standpoint, where do you think we are? I mean, is the message about what is actually happening in all this getting out to parents, and parents like, oh, not just no, hell no, you're not doing this to my kids. I'm not going to let you do it. I mean, or is it one of those things that, well, my kid is, this, well, and I mean, and there's so many different aspects of this, schools and what they're telling parents, what they're not telling parents in some cases, be it in California or anywhere else. I mean, so broadly speaking, where do you think we are in all of this as it relates to the things that are coming out of Great Britain and South Carolina and some other states around the country?
Well, there are some states that, as we've mentioned already, have passed legislation that are already blocking these things for minors. So there's progress being made. Very, very clearly, people are hearing the message. They're seeing it. I think part of the problem, though, is I think the average person who supports the trans stuff does not quite understand what they're supporting. And I don't think they quite understand what the quote unquote treatments or what gender affirming care actually entails. Okay. I know, abortion activists tend to do this when they show pictures of abortions and stuff like that because they want to shock people. But I think there is a level of that that's almost necessary to wake people up to that. I know me personally seeing the aftermath of an abortion changed how I look at it. And I think the same kind of goes for these procedures. I do think more people need to see the pictures and stuff, as gross as it is, as unseemly as it is, they need to understand the reality that this is actually happening, that it is serious medical malpractice. It's probably the biggest medical malpractice scandal in our country's history.
Well, COVID.
Well, COVID, yeah, but that's a whole other thing. But besides that,
Nobody wants to talk about that,
Yeah.
though. At least
No,
there's some awareness on this.
Keeps coming out too.
besides that. But you know, the tide is shifting. Lawsuits are happening already. Our friend Laura, she has one in the works, and I think she testified in Utah recently too. I think it was Utah where they were passing one of these laws too. She has a memoir coming out. You know, like more and more detransitioners are coming. They're telling their stories. So it's there's progress being made.
But you have the opposite too. You've got states like Vermont and California sort of enshrining the shit into law,
So we're seeing something similar.
Encouraging crazy bitch mothers to run away to the state with their children, so it's trans. It's
similar. It's similar to abortion, to the issue of abortion. Is you're having some states are going to be these safe haven states for trans, and then some of them are going to be states where it's just completely banned. But I guess the real question is, do we need some kind of federal intervention here with this question? I know Trump with the abortion question was like, yeah, we're going to just leave it to the states. Should that be what we do with the trans question? Should just be something you leave to the states and let each state decide how they want to handle it? Or should we just federally get right down to it and say, actually, well, no, this is a human rights violation. Like this is a serious crisis. It's harming too many people. Let's just put a stop on it. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
And that is a good question, because 9 times out of 10, I would argue, let each individual jurisdiction across the country decide how they want to sell this question. But on the other hand, if the entire United States was founded on the principle of the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then life and the pursuit of happiness are being violated with these procedures that are being allowed to be done to children. And I'm like, okay, that affects everybody all across the country. Maybe it's time we do have federal legislation on this. So I mean, if a bill got before the Congress and got signed by a president that outlaws this stuff, I'd have no problem with it. I really wouldn't.
But would you get that in a Democratic Congress like we have right now with the Democratic president?
Would you get it in a Republican Congress?
Would you? It's a good question.
Republicans?
I don't know.
Well, but I mean, I think what's going to happen, and feel free to disagree with me, I think you're going to have things like South Carolina. You're going to have other individual states that hold hearings, bring this issue to light, let people hear about it, let people see it, and then you're going to see small victories, and it will just start piling up and snowballing. Now, there's some places it's just not going to happen. I mean, when you got California passing laws that say, hey, not only do you not need to tell your parents anything, you just let us know, and we'll just
creepy.
We won't let them know anything. And I'm sitting here going, excuse me? Those kids don't belong to you. They belong to their parents. You don't get the right to make that determination. So,
not if you ask Democrats.
The same place where child trafficking is a misdemeanor.
That's a good question.
What?
Yeah, it's either
really?
Child trafficking or child videos. I'm pretty sure it's trafficking.
if anybody in chat's got a good answer on this one, drop it in.
I'm gonna ask Rock.
Okay.
And I think Germany just did that too, also. Because we were talking about other countries.
Oh yeah. I mean, it just boggles my mind what some places are doing, and it's like, but again, there's small victories everywhere, and it's like you're seeing signs of it popping up, which makes me start to wonder. I mean, on so many different aspects of, I guess, everything that sort of circles around Pride Month and all the subjects that kind of come off of it, it makes me start to wonder, where are we at? I mean, I think most Americans would argue we are a very live and let live society, but there's just some lines you don't cross. And when people find out you've crossed them, it's like, no.
So according to Grok, they changed the law in 2023, making child trafficking of a minor for the purposes of a commercial sex act a serious felony with harsher penalties, sentencing enhancements, and added to the state's 3 strikes thing where they get repeated things. So, but they had to change that last year. So it was a relatively new change in California.
Okay.
from misdemeanor to serious felony for child trafficking.
But the fact that it was on the books as a misdemeanor for so
until
long,
last year,
that's just mind blowing to me. It's like, what in the world's the matter with you people out there? I mean, now everybody in America starts to understand why we'd like to either give them back to Mexico or hope that an earthquake hits the San Andreas Fault or something. It's like,
I completely
out in the ocean.
That.
It's like,
Oh man, Senator Scott Weiner over there, very big wiener, I think is actually the name, right? He's infamous for pushing legislation that sort of like slowly decriminalizes or reduces the penalties, or makes it more like the last time he got a round of criticism was because he reduced the sentencing guidelines for adult like minor sex to be similar to the heterosexual penalty, and like build it as like an equal rights thing. And it was like, bro, you just reduce the penalties for like a 25-year-old banging a 15-year-old. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's like, but it's equal now. It's equal. It's just like,
I think that really goes to show, though, how all of these things are only harming the people that we're told it's in defense of. Like, one of the things that this Wiener scumbag passed was making it a misdemeanor. It was always a felony, made it a misdemeanor. So basically legalized it, the act of intentionally giving someone HIV.
That's
intentionally. Crazy. So what is that doing? That is putting, and the thing is, there are many documented cases of sick people who had HIV and would go around sleeping with people. They would target young men, convince them that they're in love with them, and then text them after, haha, you got AIDS. And these scumbags would be prosecuted before. Now they get a slap on the wrist, if that. So what is that doing? That is putting particularly gay men at risk to sexual predators who mean them harm in the name of gay rights. It is sick.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean, when news of this stuff starts coming out in places like California or other, not just California, although let's just be perfectly honest about it, California seems to have an ample amount of crazy, and in some cases more than they deserve or need, frankly. But when you hear news like this, it just, I mean, we always talk about the culture war in America, the culture war on this subject or that subject or whatever. But it's like, it's like when news like this comes out, and people on one side of the spectrum, so I don't understand why everybody's so upset about all this. And the other side is looking at them going, I don't understand why you've never gotten upset about this, because, most anybody, it doesn't matter, gay, straight, Democrat, Republican, whatever you may be, you drop a piece of news like some of the stuff we're talking about tonight, and most people would look at you and go, yeah, that is kind of stupid. But to a certain degree of people, it's like, I don't understand why everyone's so upset about all this. And I'm sitting there going, what planet did you drop in from? And can you please go back there quickly? It's like, I don't get you.
Because these people, the God that they worship is social pressure. They would give anything just to sit at the good people table. Do whatever you want. Put me in a fabric muzzle for 3 years. Take away my rights. Cut off my child's willy. Anything. There's nothing too far for these people.
I was watching a live stream you had recently with Carrie Smith, and I caught this very segment. Shout out to Carrie Smith, by the way. Love that lady. And you were talking about the God of social pressure versus, the God that everybody else worships. You want to kind of go back over that, Mike, for people who may not have had a chance to hear that?
Well, basically what I was telling her, this is a bit of a tangent. However, the real cause of this
that you've ever not been on a tangent before. No, not at all.
Italian gay man going on a tangent? Never.
The cause of all of this, it is liberal middle-aged women, white chicks, liberal white chicks who are middle-aged. They are not getting laid. Their husbands don't bang them, and they're bored. They have to get, their jollies somehow. So, let me trans my kid. That's very exotic. I'll get lots of attention, all the validation. And just because they're not getting laid, we all need to suffer. And that's what's causing all of this. But my point with that, I did have a point with that. That I think the thing
there, folks, he promises.
I think the things that all of us and people like us and any person who's talking about this, I think it's a very positive thing, because the more stigma that we can put on this, the more social pressure we can push against this, you'll see how quickly it'll change when the social pressure is no longer on their side.
Mm-hmm.
What Mike said reminds me of a tweet that our friend Russell put out there a couple years ago, actually, that went viral. And basically he was saying, the trans kid today is basically just like the new Gucci handbag, and I do think that is a lot of what we're seeing. Like what Mike says is like these upper middle class or upper class bored liberal white ladies, who want to feel like who want to feel like they're part of something, the next cause or whatever, and that they're being caring and progressive. And I think part of it might even have to do with maybe their own like sense of guilt for being wealthy or successful or something. I kind of got that sense in Burlington. We mentioned that earlier. We mentioned Burlington, Vermont. And when Brett and I visited there, I kind of got a sort of impression of that, and the suburban like neighborhoods. I remember driving through there, and you see a lot of Black Lives Matter signs in front of houses and the progress flag flying in their yard and stuff. And I kind of got the impression that part of that is because they live in this really like beautiful place where it's really nice and for the most part safe. Although I think Burlington is getting a little less safe. I know crime is going up now, and it's starting to head more in the Portland direction, but it's a beautiful place, and I feel like there's a level of like almost like guilt there. Like, how dare I live in this nice, beautiful place with things and money and stuff. And look, I care about the downtrodden and stuff. I swear, like I'm being a good ally. And I think that's part of what you're seeing going on there.
Well, let me ask you all a question. I'll throw this over to Lady G to start it off. Mike's talking about the social pressure. That these how do I want to briefly sum up the way you describe these women, Michael? Let's see.
Bored middle-aged white chicks who are not getting laid.
That last part, very important.
It is.
Okay, sexless white chicks who are apparently causing the country a whole lot of grief. The social pressure that's like, either they're feeling or they're exerting. I guess here's my question. When does the social pressure start swinging the other way? Because it seems to me that there's a significant number of people that feel much like we do, regardless of where they are in the country or, their occupation or whatever else. They're kind of like, this stuff is nuts. My question, and I'll throw this to Gothics, when does the social pressure start the other way? In other words, when is it that this significant group of people, and I'm not going to try and put a percentage on, but I mean, I think it's fairly sizable. I would argue it's a majority that's just extremely quiet or timid or whatever. When does it reach the point that they're like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. This is what we're going to do, and this is how you ought to do it. When does that social pressure start going back the other direction? Or is it happening now? We just don't maybe realize it, or it's about to happen and something's about to set it off?
I think until it affects their life personally is what I found. The majority of people don't really care because especially in America, a lot of people have sort of like this live and let live principle where they'll just like, whatever's directly in front of me, if it affects my life, I care about it. If it doesn't, none of my business. And then when it becomes their business, now they have to start paying attention. And that was true for me. That's true for a lot of people who had a political awakening. It's just like, oh, this is what's happening. So unfortunately, it's going to take a rude awakening for a lot of people. I would hope for it not to get to that point, but maybe they'll get fired. Maybe they'll be ostracized because they misgendered someone or something ridiculous where it's going to force them to consider all of the nonsense.
I agree. I agree with you completely, actually. I think until it becomes something that affects them very personally, most people are going to go about their lives as if it's not. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, too. I really do think most people don't understand the gravity of it, too.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is a dire thing. They'll try to explain it away as not a big deal, but it's like, dude, Joe Biden brought Dylan Mulvaney into the White House, sat down, had an official interview in which they talked about all these things and promoted this stuff for minors and all that. Like, it is being sanctioned by the state. The state is giving all of this the nod of approval. It is serious. This is becoming law of the land. And so, I think until it does affect more personally, though, I agree with Gothics that most are going to just go about their day and they're not even going to think about it. And then one day you might, call Susie, who now identifies as Tim, the wrong pronoun, and the next thing you know, you're getting a slew of messages to your HR department and your business, or your company is saying we can't continue having you on board because it's not a good look for our brand. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
sort of thing,
like I in a weird way appreciate that so many crazy things from this movement is happening at a very accelerated pace, because it's almost like the boiling the fraught
How you boil a
metaphor.
frog.
You know how you boil a frog, right? And so like it's all of this crazy stuff happening at once. People are going to start paying attention. Whereas if you let it trickle over the course of a couple of years, it's maybe not as noticeable. So I'd rather people have a rude awakening and be like, what the heck is happening? So yes, do all the crazy stuff, publicize it. If it wakes you up quicker, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, libs of TikTok and pages like that, I think, have definitely red pilled a lot of people. Granted, I do understand that the whole phenomenon with the internet, if you dedicate yourself towards looking for a certain thing and then gathering that in one place, and then that's all you post, of course it's going to look like this is like some huge widespread thing. And it's everywhere. But it is. And that was the point I was going to make. It's like, well, the reason they have so much of that to gather and post is because a lot of it actually is happening.
Right.
Is it as much as we think? No, it is a loud minority. I think that is true. It is a loud minority, but this loud minority is being officially sanctioned by the state, and they have state power over us, and they control this whole sort of censorship conglomerate too that goes around, with it as well. And it's all tied into the trans shit. It's tied into the environmental stuff. It's tied into the COVID stuff. Our friend Basil likes to say it's all one thing. And I think politically there's some truth to that. These things all intersect, BLM with the pro-Palestine. And it's like, you're going to find that it all kind of intersects.
Okay.
And it really is everywhere. I was at, I think it was H&M. I was at a clothing store with my friend's daughter, who's 14. And you had to walk through the children's section to get to the men's and women's section.
Right.
Only in the children's section. Nowhere else. Nothing in the men's, nothing in the women's. Only in the children's section. Everything was rainbows, trans, everything. And because I'm a good uncle, I said to her, I was like, just so you know, this is called propaganda.
Yeah. And they wonder why people throw the term grooming around. It's like, why is that just in the children's section? Those are adult things. It should actually only be in the adult section. And the fact that it's exclusively in the children's section, clearly there is, some kind of agenda among some people, at least, to not just make money, but to actually indoctrinate the youth into this sort of thing. Which is unnecessary, if they're going to be
open about that too. Yeah. Like they don't hide the fact.
They don't even
indoctrinate the youth. I mean, James Lindsay, if you follow his Twitter feed, it's basically, he just shows people regularly that in all their literature, they're all about like queering the youth is what they call it. And it's like, y'all got caught and now you got to deal with the consequences. But really, I don't think the solution is some places where you have the culture already changed, you can have legislation follow, but I think really like the culture is what has to change. So, we have to be more willing to like say like that trans shit is weird. Like don't go cutting off tits off a 14-year-old. Like, and that can't be a controversial thing. Like really, like again, like it's just like this is some diabolical level mind programming where they've got the culture to the point where like saying that not cutting the healthy breasts off a young lady or not giving the young boy puberty blocking chemicals it's completely reversed. Like the whole. It's the opposite of the truth. And I was like, that's satanic. That's like what the dark side does. And like, this is the other thing that's a problem with our culture. We don't like to talk about evil or the devil or like the fact that like, our existence here is basically sort of like spiritual war where we're like humans are constantly like offered the choice between the light side and the dark side. Like nobody wants to talk about that shit. Like that's just like too like esoteric for a lot of people. But so like when you point out, like when you say that's satanic, like all of a sudden, oh, they roll their eyes at you and their brains turn off, and it's like, well, you've been programmed to do that.
Well, with the terms that are really like religiously loaded, like yes, it like turns a lot of people off. But I do think evil is the correct word. That is the most accurate word I would use to describe
anti-life,
especially targeting children, the youth.
Yeah,
like, that's like you can't get any more evil than that.
It's anti-life. It's like literally like you're ruining the future lives of these children, the most innocent among us, who like it's evil. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the one thing, and this is an argument that I guess goes back decades. I mean, you know, the argument of, you know, how dare you tell me that what I'm doing is wrong? I mean, you're treating my system of choices and my system of beliefs as some kind of morally inferior thing. We should be equivalent. Your beliefs are your beliefs and my beliefs are mine. Well, that's gonna work, I guess, until your beliefs conflict with mine, and then you're trying to make your beliefs part of, you know, what is the law of the land. You know, and that's when, I mean, and that's where we're at. I mean, it's like, no, the idea that, yeah, we can make people, you know, children can be happy if they have their breasts cut off or their penises removed, and, you know, then this is perfectly fine. You know, that's going to make them happy, and you can't tell them what's good for them. Excuse me? They can't consent to it, number one. We have laws that say what they can and cannot consent to, but yet you somehow believe they've got the ability and the intellectual capacity to consent to this, and that's morally equivalent to someone else's belief that that's not right. Are you crazy? That's just nuts.
Well, it's a self-defeating statement anyway when someone says that. Like, if your metric for what is good versus evil is whether or not it makes someone happy, well, some people think mass murder makes them happy, so we're going to say that they're wrong. And, you know, as Brentley was talking about it, this is a topic that I bring up on my channel a lot, and people, they just don't get it, and they think like the whole spiritual aspect of these discussions are totally irrelevant. It's like, no, it is a topic of good versus evil, so you have to have an understanding of what these things are. You simply saying there's evil in the world with no standard to judge that by, you're just shooting in the dark. Like, what is it exactly you're aiming for? If your idea of right and wrong is just your opinion, that's exactly what they're doing. So why are you upset?
Oh, exactly. And it just, you know, my system of morality is just as good as yours. Okay, well, what do you believe? Well, I believe that we can do this to children and that'll make them happy. Oh, no, you just stopped being equal and you just went to war with me. And that's the backlash. It's like, you know, it's amazing to watch. Over on Rumble, Zippy says the collective always seems to reinforce useful idiots to ensure their power is never contested. We cannot let people live. We must tell them how to live. And thank you for the Rumble rant. I do appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it doesn't really matter what the issue is. I mean, the thing I guess I'm discovering as I'm getting older is like, you know, it seems like, and not necessarily you guys, I guess me, this is self-confessional. I argue. What? Don't.
Well, I'm not getting older. Maybe you are. Sorry, go on.
Look, I'm wearing sandals, not boots. Quit spreading that much crap around, okay? I can't keep my feet out of that and not get something on it.
Mike with his age propaganda.
I'm translating.
There he goes. Disinformation, Michael. You know, anymore, I feel like I'm arguing against the symptom and I'm not getting to the disease. And I think, you know, and it's, again, there's a lot of reasons why I invited all of you on here. But, you know, you guys talk about this, and especially, you know, Gothix brings this up on her channel all the time, is that a lot of what we're dealing with are questions of the heart and the soul and things that are higher than what we see every day in the physical. We're arguing about items that really, in the end, come down to spiritual matters. And they manifest themselves in these debates that we have about children, what you should do, what you should not do. do we allow this sort of thing in a corporation that they're selling or pushing this idea or this ideology or this agenda? And it just, people don't think about how much morality affects everything else. And it's just kind of amazing to watch. And they're like, when it gets slapped, I think you're right. When it gets in their grill, some of the issues that we're talking about, to watch the reaction of the wake up that they have to that, it's like, when did this start?
Yep.
It's really extraordinary to watch.
Well, they're the ones who I think will like stumble into it unrealizing, and they'll just accidentally trip that wire. And then all of a sudden they realize that, oh, this is here and this is happening. There's those types. And then there are the types who they do know it's happening. They're perfectly aware of it. And like you said, they already agree with us. They already hold these views, but they're too afraid to say something because they know it's going to personally affect them as soon as they do.
Yeah.
So they are dancing around it. And then there's the other ones who just don't even know it's happening. And then they like stupidly trip the wire and they're like, oh shit, now I'm canceled. How did that happen? Then, and like I said, then these other ones are actively avoiding being canceled.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that the vast majority of people who go along with this don't actually, but they just pretend to believe this stuff, because I've spoken to people.
They think it's politeness. They think it's manners. They put it down.
They don't want to offend.
Pretend they play make believe, because I've spoken to people where I was being interviewed or I was interviewing somebody, and you can see in their eyes that they know this is insane. And I just keep repeating one question to them. I'm like, will you say it's wrong to cut off the breasts of a 13-year-old child? Mm-hmm. Oh well, they will not say it, but you can
that
tell
should be a yes.
Wrong.
It should be a yes or no question. It should,
but
be
they
like
play make believe. But I truly believe that the vast majority of people do not actually deep down believe in this crap.
Of course not. I think even most of the people who are walking around saying they believe in it, adamantly, deep down know what a man is and what a woman is and what the difference is. Like, come on, let's be real.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes back to something I said. When does the social pressure finally start working the other way? And it's like, I mean, yeah, I'm like you, Mike. I've run into people all the time. They say, "Oh, well, this stuff's stupid. This stuff is awful. This stuff," but bless their heart. I
can never say that.
Oh, but I can't say that. Well, why not? You're saying it to me.
When more of them do is when it will shift. When more of them say it.
Yeah,
is really what it comes down to. And perhaps it really is going to take more people like us to lead the way, or how do I put this? Take the slings and arrows first, unfortunately, to kind of show them, like, hey, look, I survived, I did it. I spoke out. I got quote unquote canceled and they grilled me and all this shit, but I'm still here. I'm still going, like I'm thriving, I'm doing this and that or whatever. So I think if more people see that there are folks who can speak these very basic truths out loud and still survive and make their way in the world, more of them will do it. And eventually the tide will shift, and eventually it'll become corny and lame and stupid and retarded to say that like a man, a woman can be a man, like how stupid. I
haven't seen nearly as much of like the drag kids stuff as I used to.
That's true.
Same.
And that I'm like, it's that, people like I was glad that like that has toned down. Like I'm not seeing that coming across my feed. I spoke out against that early, and I was very glad that it did. And
it might have to do with what I said earlier. I think more and more of the youth, I do think, are starting to look at the LGBT stuff as corny. It's not cool.
It is, and they're making it corny because they're just
making it corny. Yeah.
Embracing it, and it's the same, and it's the opposite. They have this intention, always they like cause the opposite of their intention or their stated intentions. Yeah. But and this is another thing that I noticed about the satanic or like the ideologically possessed, if people don't like that word, they obsess about image over the actual substance. They're concerned about how things appear on the surface versus what is actually happening underneath.
Yes, which the whole trans thing is based upon that.
Exactly. That's why they want.
Their language is always to tell what's a saying they use all the time. It's not a good look. They don't care how something is. They care how it looks.
Yep.
That's also like they don't talk the same way that we do. We exchange words that in genuine good faith. We try to use the words that We know and understand. We all have similar meanings, and if we disagree on the meaning of a word, we can discuss it. But they use emotional hooks that are like baited like rhetorical traps, so that you like for example, trans women are women. That's like, how they argue. It's not an argument. It's a statement of a lie that comes with this emotionally laden garbage that suggests if you disagree with that sentiment, there's something wrong with you. So it comes it's this it's emotional weapon in order to cow compliance, not a good faith exchange in order to communicate something.
Yeah. Oh, that's something that's just been boggling my mind anymore in the area of free speech, which is kind of a on the edge issue related to the stuff we're talking about. But I mean, it plays into it, is because there was a time that I don't even think it was that many years ago that the ideas that are being espoused by the left progressives in these areas would have been, shouted down. Maybe not shouted down is the right word, but argued down. It's like, no, you can't do that, and here's why. But for the silence of people who should have spoken out, and I count myself as one of them. I'm not sitting here trying to be, without sin on that question. For the silence of people like me who for years said, oh, no one's going to believe this. I don't have to speak out about this because these ideas are so screwy. No one's ever going to believe this stuff. They'll never get implemented. Well, guess what? Folks like me stayed silent. This stuff got implemented. And now
the president of the United States is sitting down with the trans woman in the White House for an official interview, which is getting blasted internationally.
And the whole of society is fighting.
I don't even like their framing anymore. Like, I don't even like using the word trans woman.
Yeah.
Homosexual man who pretends to be a female and dresses like a female. Like,
very, very dedicated cosplayer.
Very LARPer, female LARPer.
Super dedicated.
Yeah, but I mean, now it's to the point that for any number of reasons, one of them I think I just articulated, is like you can't have a conversation and say, well, no, I mean, someone, oh, look at that wonderful suit of clothes the emperor is wearing. No, the emperor is naked. Oh, you can't say that about the emperor. How dare you? He's not naked. Look that's a wonderful suit of clothes. I mean, the lines, the everything else, the stitching. No, he's naked. You can't say the obvious anymore because it's like, oh, we can't offend someone like that. We can't do that sort of. Yes, you can. It's very easy. Just say it. It's like it's obvious. Say it.
That's why comedians and shit posters and edgelords and content creators are so important.
Well, this kind of leads into another topic tied into this topic, I would say, and this is like feminism and the whole feminist movement. Some argue that kind of opened the door for all of this because the whole like culture that we exist in right now is this sort of coddle mommy culture of where we want to make sure everyone feels included and safe and everyone's feelings are good and no one feels left out and hurt, and that if you say anything that might make someone feel bad, God forbid, about themselves in any way, that is mean and rude and bad, and you should be shunned from society.
Yes, criticism is effectively equivalent to hate.
Yeah,
in their mind.
But it comes off to me as this sort of overly kind of like feminized culture of just babying everyone, but not trying to push, because I don't know if it's always exclusively the father, but the father tends to be the one who get the hell back up, get back on the bike. You got to push people to progress, but that sometimes is upsetting. When you get criticism from someone. And they want to encourage you to improve yourself, etc. You have to contend with things about yourself that might be bad things that you got to change. Our culture now has this sort of culture where that is considered bad to do that. You can't criticize people. Everyone has to have good self-esteem all the time.
Don't judge me.
Yeah. A friend of mine I was talking to about this traces it back to the self-esteem movement. So I think it goes further back that really feminism kind of opened the door to it. But the whole self-esteem movement, I think that came about in like the late 80s and like 90s and psychiatry and stuff, that, to like criticize kids too heavily was like bad for their their mental health and all this shit. Don't use red pen, when you mark papers, because we don't want to upset the student and make them feel too judged, that sort of thing. And over decades, we've kind of just slowly slid into this zeitgeist of a coddle culture, and that's what opened the door for just let Timmy run against the women, sure, let Jim be Tina now, and now Tina can go into the women's locker room and the bathroom and stuff, because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We want to make sure he feels really good and safe. And
we've forgotten the importance of old cantankerous people. And what I'm getting at,
Brian.
Yes, well, thank God, because there's just some people in the world that ought to be allowed to. You go, hey guys, he's cranky, he's old, he's tired, he's got bags under his eyes, gray hair, but you know what? You might want to listen to him because he's lived a little bit and can actually tell you how it really operates. And by old cranky people, what I'm getting at is, the best coaches that I ever had when I was playing sports were the ones that pushed me the hardest. They said, dude, you can do it better. Take 5 more foul shots, take 5 more jumpers when you're playing basketball. Hit 10 more tennis balls back across the net. Come on, you can run faster. They push you. They push you to make you better, because it's not that they're trying to denigrate you. It's trying to get the most excellence out of you that is in your capacity as one of God's created creatures.
And that pushing you is going to make you uncomfortable, might upset you sometimes, etc. And that, like I said, we have a culture now where the opposite is what is encouraged. Don't push people. Don't tell them that they can be better than what they are. Whatever they say they are, agree with it, because if you don't agree with it, their feelings might get hurt. And if you hurt their feelings, that's bad. You're a bad person. You should never hurt anyone's feelings ever.
Well, I'm glad I had those coaches and teachers especially. I have I had some wonderful teachers growing up when I was going through high school, and I had one of them that, the woman drove me crazy. But man, I can still quote parts of Shakespeare just because of the things she made me learn.
I think I remember you talking about this when you came on the show last time.
One of the best teachers I ever had, and I can still quote lines from Macbeth and various other things just because of what she made me do years ago. Because I am so young and all that good stuff.
Our friend Josh from Disaffected, he does Disaffected podcast. He talks about this in regards to one of his early math teachers who ingrained the times tables into him, and he hated her at the time. Later, he's like,
can I ask, what do you guys think we're going to see this Pride season as far as viral videos and conservative outrage? Because every year there's a video that goes viral and there's conservative outrage
over it.
That's a great question.
What do you think we're gonna see? What do you
Hopefully
think?
Mine. I have a video I'm putting out. Have you guys ever seen I think it's called Cinema Sins? They do things with movies and it's everything wrong with.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be everything wrong with Die Hard in 20 minutes. So I'm doing everything wrong with gay people.
Okay, that's good.
That'll be interesting. But to answer your question, I'm not quite sure, because that's what I'm saying, and maybe I'm just not realizing the avalanche that's about to happen, because you guys could be absolutely right.
Girl,
12:01 a.m. on June 1st, every rainbow is going to come out of every.
Can I just give a bit of context, just so that the people out there know where we are? Because in the last 2 months, we've had one Spanish politician go viral for having poo-poo in his facial region because he was engaged in a adult activity. And we had a German politician go viral because he was licking toilet bowls and putting that on the internet.
Oh, so that wasn't the same person.
No, different people. Spain,
I would
Germany.
Think those two interests would kind of go hand in hand.
Europe's so progressive.
Well, keep in mind, it's all European weirdness. It's just
ass
in
in toilet
places.
bowl.
Yeah, and don't forget the Senate chamber twink.
Oh God!
Yeah, that was last fall. That was last fall. So
it was still last fall. Yeah,
I forgot about him.
I think we're gonna have at least,
believe me,
at least one. There's got to be some. It's been a while since we've had a good drag queen with the children's video, like either that or I've just tuned it all out.
It's gonna be more of the same. It's gonna be more of that stuff. You know, there's gonna be more, you know, drag story reading hour, and then there'll be protests against that in class.
Small children at Pride events and adults engaged in adult activities with small children in close proximity.
Dude, let me tell you guys,
dudes in harnesses with puppy masks on all fours, and then they'll catch a picture of like a kid next to them.
Can I tell you, I got some flack because I responded to, you know, the Nicki Minaj bro. I responded to one of his posts where he put like a thing up where it was like a bunch of gay dudes like walking like, you know, dog people.
Yeah, that's an old picture.
I don't get the appeal.
Right. So I was just like, this isn't gay. This is BDSM. These people just happen to be gay, and straight people engage in this shit too. Like, so like, let's girl a lot.
Dude,
there's
50,
actually there's
50,
more.
50
there's
shades
more.
Wait, let me
more
just
kinky straight people.
Comics.
Let me say this fact real quick. 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey.
But I don't see them putting Chihuahua masks on their face.
Go to Folsom.
I'll take that as we should stay out of it.
Yeah, Brian, are these your activities that you're doing? Let's go to our straight correspondent.
I am staying way the heck out of this one. I'm not even getting near this subject. Okay,
let me tell you guys.
Just really quick. 50 Shades of Grey was the fastest selling paperback in history. Just saying.
But that's what, you know, we like, you know, ties a car battery up to her nipples or something.
My point is like the
regalia.
The BDSM thing is not exclusive to
that's true.
Homos.
Right, but so I said that, and immediately everybody was just like, "We don't want it around our children." I was like, "Honey, like clearly you don't know who I am. Like I've been talking about this shit for years. Like here's a Rumble video from 5 years ago where I was complaining about kids at Pride. Like they get so mad, and the reaction, you know, is palpable. So I feel like you know, at least on X, at least, you know, in certain circles that I'm in, definitely the people are no longer having it. And any suggestion, like I wasn't even like defending it. I was just giving, you know, I thought I was elaborating on the point, you know, being like, look, this isn't just gay, you know, straight people do it too. And there's more of a cultural conversation really that we should have about kink being inappropriate for public, especially public events where, you know, children are going to be there. Like we can have that conversation, but like these people just got so mad. Like they were like, "You're one of those satanic faggots," and I was like, "Sweetie, like I'm one of the good ones. Like you have no idea." Like,
I cannot possibly imagine you know, getting grief from somebody over something you say, Brentley, because I mean you're just so tame with your comments about things that are going on in the world. It just kind of.
Me catch flack on the internet? Never.
I know. It's unimaginable. Just totally unimaginable, my friend. No, couldn't possibly happen. But I mean, I guess that goes back to let me do this real quick over on Rumble. Zippy with a Rumble rant. The disease is collectivism. The collective tells you, even forces its morality on you. And another Rumble rant. It's strange. The human beings are a contradiction. There is more individuality in the average person. Okay. I can kind of see that. I can absolutely see that. But let me go back, and I guess you had mentioned it. You said that, you know, some people, they're just not having any of it. I mean, how much of that they're not having any of it are we going to wind up seeing next month? I mean, are we going to see, you know, here we got a pride parade and just, you know, they're getting booed and hissed and, you know, protested, you know, about as bad as the people. Yeah, I mean,
I have a feeling it's going to be somewhat tumultuous, just for the fact that we're in an election year. So
true, I can see that.
Let me tell you guys, by the way, what they do here. Bad enough. We've talking. Bad enough. Talking. We've just. Okay, I was going. Bad enough that we have to suffer through the month of June. Oh no, that's not good enough. See, they have a region-specific Pride Month here. In October. So Pride Month here happens in June and October. I could say these motherfuckers are trying to colonize October, spooky month. I will not let that happen.
Yeah, no, October is sacrosanct for spookiness.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, fall celebrations.
Wait, so you're saying Florida has Pride in October?
Orlando does.
Orlando specifically.
Orlando has a late.
I guarantee you they have it. I guarantee you they have it in June too, though. I guarantee you.
Oh well, I mean, there's apparently a Pride every day now.
It's
just
Pride Century.
It's just pride. It's just pride.
We need
Biden
Humility Month.
The Biden administration was pandering to the gays again. They put out like a thing about like some LGBT Day of Remembrance or something, and I was like, guys, you do this every
like
quarter.
How many days are there?
Like,
stop! That last week. It was the day against homophobia, and so I'm gonna be extra homophobic today.
The pandering. I mean, honestly, the Biden administration is in deep trouble. Their polling has been terrible. They're having problems with black people. They're having problems in the swing states. Like black males especially have been leaning more and more away from Biden. And also, even though, like, ironically, the extreme progressives are no longer interested anymore because of how he's been handling the Israeli-Palestine situation. You know, he's been sort of like, he's been like hedging on it. Like, you know, again, it's image versus substance. In the one hand, he's like, we're not shipping the heavy bombs so that they can't bomb. And we're stand really against like any engagement. But then, you know, really in reality, they're, you know, sending all the money, all the weapons that they, you know, have already, you know, did. This is just sort of like a PR thing. But he's still getting like the hate. Like he's getting blamed for what Israel is doing when it's like, we don't really have like, you know, control over what Netanyahu does.
They created this monster. They've pandered for years to the Hamas hoes. So you made this bed. Now
the chickens are coming home to roost and they are clucking.
It intersects too with, like I said earlier, with like BLM, Antifa, like all those groups.
Jews are the new blacks for,
and their tactics are sort of also being implemented in this new current movement with the pro-Palestine stuff. I think Andy No recently did a thing about this where he was talking about how the new current pro-Palestine movement is kind of the recent offshoot of those previous protest movements, tracing it all the way back to like Occupy.
Like, so is Biden going to have a pride event at the White House this year like he did last year?
Probably.
Or sit down with like. So go ahead.
With the titty lady.
With the titty lady.
Yeah. I mean, is Biden going to sit down and have a sit down interview with the titty lady or this year?
Probably
you're
not.
Gonna see, I can't wait. You're going to see a weekend. It's going to be insufferable. I feel like I've heard Gothics talk a lot about not allowing yourself to be completely consumed by politics, and I think there are too many people who do that. So let me tell you, how I'm going to spend the month of June. You know, I'll rant, I'll bitch, whatever, and then I'm going to tune it all the fuck out. I'm in Florida. I'm living my best life. I'm drinking fucking Shirley Temples. I'm going to try to tune these people out.
You know what we should do? You know what we should do in June just to piss everyone off? Let's just post as much as possible about how, you know, great traditional families are and how awesome it is for men and women to get married and have kids and how that's great for society in the future. Let's just tweet about that and like act like there are no rainbows. And we don't.
You could say how great it would be for gay people to get married to each other, and they would be infuriated by that. That's not what they believe in.
Yeah. But just innocuously like, oh man, it's just like, let's just make more people. That's great. You know, I love seeing straight people like married and happy and stuff. Oh my God, June is the best month for marriage.
Make babies great again. There you go. That's going to be the motto for the month of June. Make babies great again.
And what's funny though is what I'm saying is such an innocuous.
Try to trans the babies then.
Like I'm not even. It's not offensive. It's not like there's nothing offensive about what I just said. It's innocuous, but these people view like what is just normal as an affront on them because they're not, I guess.
Well, but it goes back to the question of moral equivalency. I mean, we call it normal. There's how dare you get to define what normal is?
Well, they view terms like normal and abnormal purely in the sense of positive and negative, which obviously they can be used that way. You can call something abnormal and mean it in a negative way. But when I'm saying the word normal and abnormal, all I mean is what is the most common and what is the least common. Heterosexuality is normal because it is the norm, because it is the most common. And what diverts from that is abnormal. You know, I have an abnormal sexuality. It is not equivalent to Brian's. It is abnormal. Brian's is normal.
Especially with the bitches you date.
The bitches I date. But it doesn't mean that like mine is inherently bad and yours is inherently good. But it does mean that yours is normal. It is the most common. And there's a reason for that biologically.
Well, but I also understand. I mean, there are problems on my side of the fence. When I think that I can date Marjorie Taylor Greene on the grounds I can kiss her, that might be an issue. I'm just saying,
Oh man, her recent scuffle with Crockett on the floor, that was
That was fun.
Somebody should have sold tickets for that bad boy.
Good
That
television.
That was something, man. I can't even I remember watching that and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, this is the house floor today. But I also remind myself, people have gotten in fist fights and shit on the floor. Like, that's definitely not the craziest Congress has ever been. That was kind of light.
You brought up something a second ago, and I'll throw this out for the group. And I think maybe you got the best, Daniel. You got the best idea of all, because I mean, people who are not all in on Pride Month, the whole trans agenda, the whole everything else, and they're sitting here in various shades of revulsion. Let's put that, if I may use that word. And they're sitting there going, "How do we respond to this?" And I think you've got maybe one of the best ideas I've ever heard. It's like, okay, we're going to treat our lives as normally as possible. We're not going to. All right, yeah, I acknowledge you're doing weirdness over here, but here's my answer for it. I'm going to be normal.
Yeah,
I'm going to say that making babies is great. I'm going to say having a family is great.
Yeah. Promote the other stuff.
Yeah. And beyond that, what else? I mean, and I'll throw this out to all of you. What do all of you recommend to people as to how they respond to what is about to happen? Which sounds so ominous. I hate to say it that way, but the avalanche of rainbows is coming. There's just no doubt about it. So, what's everybody's recommendation?
Make fun of it. That's my recommendation, is make fun of it. If you are going to acknowledge it and you can't get away from it and it's going to be everywhere you turn and look, make fun of it and don't be afraid to. And this homo here is telling you, you have permission to make fun of it. Call it stupid, call it retarded. Laugh at the rainbow people. Just laugh at it. Make jokes, make memes, make fun of it. Make it fun.
Yeah, and the irony of it is, and y'all stop me, correct me if I'm wrong. The irony of it is, to me, when it comes to those who make the most fun of Pride Month, it comes from the gays. The gays make more fun of Pride Month than the straights do. I mean, it's
lame.
Absolutely
the disaffected ones, were
okay. Fair enough. The disaffected, it just really kind of, Forest Mommy's got a good idea on this. Just
Forest Mommy.
Well, it might be similar to why you see a really huge pushback against the trans stuff amongst, gays and lesbians and stuff. It might be a similar kind of phenomenon to that. And I think part of that, the why you see that is a lot of gays and lesbians speaking out against it, see themselves in those kids. Like they realize if I was growing up today, that could have been me. So they take it, I think, a little more personally. And I think it's similar to the Pride stuff, that the ones who are just normal people, we just want to be normal. We don't want to be grouped in this string of letters. We know that inevitably we're going to be grouped in that string of letters by people as soon as they find out anything about, say, our personal sexual proclivities or whatever. So it affects us more directly. So I think that is why you see those of us speaking out louder against it, say, than the average person.
Very true. Very true. Well, guys, I tell you what, I don't want to hold up y'all's evenings because I know y'all have lives, and then you got Harlow down there. It's like working on his fourth Shirley Temple of the night, just ridiculously so.
Are you drinking over there?
He's slushying a Shirley Temple.
I mean, I saw him drinking. I didn't know what he was drinking, though. I didn't.
It's a Shirley Temple, and she ain't a virgin.
Oh my! Oh my!
It's old lady Shirley Temple when she went to Congress.
Oh man!
Yes, Queen, get it.
It's saucy Shirley Temple.
Pre-gaming for Pride Month.
No.
Yes, he's going to drink his whole way. He's going to drink his way from June 1st to June 30th to get through the whole thing. So but I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. Like I said, it's been a while since I've caught up with some of you, and I'm not saying this to BS you. I genuinely mean it. The stuff that you guys are talking about on your channels and the subjects that you're getting into at this hour are things that absolutely need to be addressed, and they need to be discussed, and ideas need to be put out there. And you guys are some of the best at doing it. And it's just an absolute, and I'm, again, no BS here. It's an absolute joy and pleasure for me to be associated with you and to have you here on the channel. So, tell you what, let's go around the horn. Tell everybody what you're up to and where can they find you on social media and what can they best do to help you. Lady G, we'll start with you.
Yes, my name is Gothix. My pronouns are she, her. You can find
Hell
me
yes.
on my YouTube channel at Gothix TV. You can also check out my official documentary streaming on lore.tv/Gothix. Check it out. And what do I have going on? I'm still trying to figure that out, so I'm just living life. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No, Gothix, it's a pleasure to have you. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering why she looks as good as she does, all that child's blood that she's been injecting and putting in by IV, it is really paying off. I don't know what are you using, the 4-year-old stuff or using the 3-year-old kid stuff? I mean, because it's just doing wonders for you.
All of it.
All of it.
So you got the premium Illuminati plan.
Yes,
Gotcha.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, she got the high octane children's blood. So there you go, folks. Mr. Harlow, the high harlot of the Sunshine State. What are you up to? What are you doing? Where can people find you? What can they do to help you out?
I have a YouTube channel. It's been a little bit barren. But it will not be this June because we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer through this together. I'm putting out a video. I've been wanting to make this video for years. It's literally the reason I made the channel in the first place was to someday make this video, which is basically just everything wrong with gay people and the gay culture. Because I really feel like, in addition to all the stuff we talked about, I feel like we need to be offering some kind of alternative to gay people because there are so many people who have never even heard such things. And I feel like what was the point of gay marriage when it feels like in this culture of theirs, it's like you have the right to marry, but not the right to love. So I'm going to be talking about things like that, I suppose. So I'm on Twitter, not Mike Harlow. My channel is just my name, Mike like Tyson, Harlow like Gene. And I love you, Brian. Oh, and we got to catch up soon because, all the things you told me not to do, I did them all. We'll talk.
Proud of you, boy. Proud of you. See, that's what I love about Harlow. He has standards. Low standards, but he has standards.
all the things you told me not to do, I did them.
Exactly. So, all right. Now, these two cats down here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. These two cats down here, I jokingly tell people, not jokingly, but it's true. I think they are two of the finest thought provocateurs on the whole of the internet. And gentlemen, as the proprietors of your very fine channel, tell everybody where they can find you. What have you guys got cooking in the near future? And, where is the underground bunker you're going to be hiding from in the month of June to get over Pride Month? We all want to know.
Oh boy. Well, you can find us at Dangerous Ret on Twitter because you can't fit all of rhetoric on the handle. And on Instagram, it is Dangerous Rhetoric. You find me at Dan Delafay. You find Brent at Kopopolis. We are just doing our thing. We've been a little nonchalant about the podcast lately because a bunch of stuff's going on. I'm dealing with always a crisis in my life, unfortunately. Our last episode is very interesting. You should check it out. We spoke with my friend Callan, who is the former senior creative producer at Project Veritas. And we discussed what happened at the journalistic organization last year between them and James O'Keefe and why they parted ways. So that was a very interesting episode. We're actually going to talk a little bit more about that story and have some more guests on who used to work there soon. And we have some other guests in the works, but I don't want to spoil too much before we lock them in. But besides that, just doing our thing, man. I'm over here in Pennsylvania now, so.
Interesting state you're living in these days for a lot of reasons. It seems to be getting a lot of attention. I have no idea why.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a battleground state or something.
Yeah.
Are you registered to vote?
I am not yet, but I'm going to. Yeah,
you should do that. You should get that done.
It did. The primary, it didn't matter. We already knew Trump was going to be the candidate. So
I am going to be in the I guess I'll sort of be adjacent to the miasma of New York City because I'm out on Fire Island in the Pines in Gay Island. It's like I run
That's why you got the red light on, Roxanne.
Yes, Carl.
I said the same thing when it first came on.
There's a showing here at my house of Rocky Horror.
There's a showing
of Rocky Horror Picture Show on Saturday and Sunday in the living room.
Harlow's jealous now. He's like, how do I get an airline flight up to New York City?
I could probably stream it for you, girl. I have a camera sort of like in the room, so it's usually where I normally am up there, but like the cast and crew are doing their photo shoot pre whatever stuff, and there's music, and there's no way I could.
You've just
do
been
this.
You like streaming, lounging on bed has just been great.
Well, I mean, I have my laptop. This is not my normal setup, so I have my laptop.
Clearly,
but it works.
When he was like lounging there, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, do I need to like start charging like some kind of like money amount to get into the No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Anyway, before this totally degenerates right down into the gutter.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Brian, I'm going to take over for 1 second because I want to tell all you people watching something about this man in the fedora right here.
Uh-oh.
You need to support him. He is just the greatest person in the world.
Shut
In
up.
addition to all the amazing stuff that he puts out, I want to tell you something about this guy. When I was moving, I was going through a really hard time. I was a mess. This man called me every single night, listening to me sobbing. A crazy person called me every single night to check on me. And then it was like everything went wrong. I was struggling. I moved 3 days later. I have to go to do Timcast. And as if he hadn't supported me enough, I was like, I'm a mess. I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, it's okay. We're going to study for it. I'm going to catch you up on everything going on. We're going to have study sessions for it. He is just the greatest person in the world. And I'm so thankful for you, Brian. And you all need to support this beautiful man.
That's so wholesome.
It is very wholesome. And I agree with Mike's statement. Definitely support Brian. Brent and I, if I recall correctly, we were your first guests.
They're my very first guests. Yes.
Support these guys too. Because
I love to see like you're nearing 1,000 subs now and stuff. That's awesome, man. And keep it up. You're very consistent. You know, I don't catch all of your live streams, but I try to catch your news rundowns here and there because it's a good way to get the info of what's happening on the day-to-day basis. But yes, support Brian, everyone, please.
Yeah, I'm having fun with the way that I started doing my channel was like 3 or 4 videos a week and then, one live stream on the weekend. Well, it finally got to the point I was turning into a zombie because it's like, staying up that late at night and trying to get back up early in the morning. It's like, no. So now what I'm doing for my channel is live streams through the week, 1 live stream on the weekend. And I'm going to try to get back in the saddle as far as making like short little videos. But, I want to thank all of you all for being here tonight. I mean, like everybody else, I don't always get the chance to catch your content, but when I do, it's like, wow, these people are not better known out there being contacted to be like, what does Brentley and Daniel think? What's Mike thinking? What's Gothic's thinking about a particular subject? I don't get it. Because it's like, you guys are too smart, too insightful, and too good at what you do not to be better known than what you are. And the fact that, I've got the chance to have you guys on my channel, it's always a joy and pleasure. And as I've always said to each of you, you guys are welcome back here anytime you want, and I know you've got platforms bigger than mine, but if ever you've got that thing, it's like, I gotta go talk to somebody. What's Brian doing?
Those two, not Brent and I. We're small fries, but
I like being small. I like our niche audience.
I like it
I'm
too.
the kids' fries.
What I like about being a small channel is there's like a sort of like litmus test when you're this kind of channel and you don't have a big audience. It's like when you invite someone on, like, are you too good to talk to me on my stupid little podcast with like 1,000 followers, And it is interesting to see who actually does just talk with us. Some of those people having large followings. And I think it does say a lot about those people when they choose to talk to someone who doesn't really have a big audience to give to them, but just genuinely wants to talk. And I think often that's what people sense about us and why they chat with us. So.
Yeah, well, like I say, each and every one of you in your own way is doing amazing work. Please keep it up. Don't quit, because your voices are needed now more than ever, if for nothing else, to be a clarion bell of sanity in this crazy world in which we find ourselves. So, all right, with that, folks, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank each and every one of you who've stopped by the Electronic Front Porch tonight. I will be back this weekend for brunch. The unofficial news gathering on the weekend. Be back next week with more videos. If I don't get to talk to some of you all who are watching right now, between now and Monday of next week. Y'all have a very happy Memorial Day. Spend time with your families. Tell them you love them. Hang out together. Guys, hang on for 1 second. We'll say some proper goodbyes. Thank you guys so very much for being here tonight. We love you. Take it easy.